Hi guys, welcome to another code film. Right guys, in this code film, we want to look at application deployment. And what we really want to look at is installing a Jenkins pipeline. We are still in the enterprise infrastructure basis and the developer series. And of late, it seems it's become a requirement that you should have some DevOps understanding or experience or knowledge, and all because of the phrase or the word DevOps culture. And this is what's causing it to be a requirement. So in this code, we want to look at how we actually deploy application traditionally. And with that, we can fully appreciate what the DevOps culture is all about. So we'll just go straight to our IDE and then we'll start from there. All right, so let's go to the IDE. So the DevOps concept or culture is mostly based on um, two things, CI and CD. That's continuous integration, continuous delivery. So what does all this mean? So, and it's mostly favors automation. And the reason is that I'm Jonas. I'm a developer, but I'm an intern, and I've joined a big corporation, and I'm working on a project, or I've been assigned a project. Let's say it that way, and I have a task to deliver, and then that task is going to solve a problem for some end users or clients, customers, um, you name it, or a market group or a target group or a target group. All right, and before this was done, I was made aware of sorry, I was made aware of the requirements via a BA or PMs, BA, PMs, my manager, all the various stakeholders uh, that play a role in the delivery of the project. And the clients are aware, or the clients do not even know that it's Jonas that is writing the code. They do not know. But all they know is that they need a solution, and that solution has to be delivered to them. So as Jonas, as an intern, I come into this code base that's an X app, let's say X, and then I have to release an endpoint. I've been briefed about the problem and I have to release an endpoint. So I'll say fine, I'll release an endpoint. I'll just call it string. I'll call it doping. And all that this endpoint is that it just returns a ping response. So I'll say ping response, and then I'll make it a little bit fancy. Then I'll say that that concat, and I'll just ping the date time. So concat expects a string as is highlighted here. So let's make this a two string, and then when we are done with that, we just run our concat, and then we are good to go. So this is my method, and because it's going to be accessed over the internet, I'll do it and get back and put it at the endpoint and say ping. Yeah. So when you hit this endpoint, you should see this response coming from the API. And this in this scope is where I write all my implementation. So in a very big project or in a larger solution or in a larger requirement, all this is going to be where I'm going to do most of the work. But this is just a one-line solution. So it's here if I have to write 200 lines of code, I go ahead and write all my 200 lines of code. All right, so my solution is ready. And then I have to release my solution. I took time off to write this, and it required a lot of thinking and it required a lot of understanding of the problem. And now I have to deploy. Deployment shouldn't be an issue because the customers or the end users are waiting. And that's a key word. They are waiting. Not to put pressure on you as a developer, but it's good to know that they are waiting. So if you spend so much time, probably your task was assigned and then maybe they give you 2 weeks or a week. It depends on you or how fast you want to deliver. And then customers are waiting for 2 weeks or a week. And then during that 2 weeks process, you didn't release anything at all. Not even an increment or a small release, not even an increment. Smaller releases. Nothing came from your cubicle to the end user. You didn't throw anything over the fence for them to at least appreciate it because probably they could be interacting with it with a mobile app or a web app or a USSD platform, you name it. But they didn't feel anything, they didn't see anything. You take 2 weeks to write all this, then it turns out that when we do the deployment, it goes as boom, it's a bomb. It's no way in the line of the requirement that we ask for. So you ask yourself, am I now going to go back again and start all this again? The effort you put inside and then the operational overheads is causing, and also the efficiency. And this goes a long way to affect the organization's productivity. You see, all the ways that a big term they are using is gradually coming inside, and it's all from just this simple understanding of not having DevOps culture. That's all from it stems just from that, because after I'm done with this, I have to manually deploy it and I have to now make sure that it's deployed before they can consume. But if I had the DevOps culture or that DevOps understanding concept, probably when I'm done, I would have released it in increment. Later on, we'll look at that in another section. So right now, what's important is that we want to look understand without DevOps. So we are not seeing how it's going to cause a ripple effect, how this is going to cause a big ripple effect if it doesn't go in our favor at all. If it doesn't go in our favor at all, it doesn't go in our favor at all, it's a big problem. But if it does go in our favor, if it does go in our favor too, that's great. But it's not good because it can still ask for more requirement or more requirement or refinement. And that means that Jonas will have to go again and spend maybe another 2 weeks again to do all this. And that is not good at all. The efficiency we are getting from this kind of deployment, which we haven't yet started, is not good at all. So we need to make this better. So that's why the DevOps culture is becoming a great requirement when you want to even join any organization, because you should be able to be aware of this, that there's something called CI and CD. So even if I start and I do something and I feel it's okay, I've met a target, I should be able to just release that small increment, and voila, it should be deployed automatically. Automatically. It should be deployed automatically. And if I want to continuously improve my endpoint or improve the source code, it should be um, there should be no stress, or it shouldn't require so much for me to do that, because deployment shouldn't be a problem, and then continuously improving it shouldn't also be a problem, because I don't have to come back and now spend all that time again, like to now just provide this and go and deploy it. It should be straightforward. It should be just seamless. It should be a seamless operation. So now let's go ahead and deploy this. So it should be continuously. So that's where the CI/CD stands from, continuous integration, so that we can have continuous deployment, or some we have deployment, we also have delivery. So you should be able to have this seamless. That process should be seamless. Seamless. All right. So let's go ahead and let's get our hands dirty. Okay. So what we'll do is that now we'll go ahead and deploy this. So to deploy this, let's save all the notes here. We'll go into our terminal. We can't deploy this folder on the server, because the server doesn't understand the folder. It understands a file format. So just as images have file format too, solutions for applications have file formats. So we'll go ahead and show in local terminal. Okay. Yeah, and we'll do the deployment. So maybe clean package. We can just use this one line to actually build our file and make it deployable. And because I'm a Java, um, I work with Java. The two format that we can actually package this file is, there are only two. That's only WAR or JAR. Either we're delivering it as a WAR file, as a JAR file. And in all these, it's still manual deployment. But when we have the CIDC that will be implemented later, you actually see that any of them will still work. So we're going to deploy it as a WAR file, because that one actually lets you feel how it feels like deploy with a WAR file, because the server I'm using is Apache Tomcat, and Apache Tomcat So far, what I've experienced, I've been able to deploy to only WAR files. I've not done a deployment to the char file. So I'm going to deploy it as a WAR file. All right, so since it was ready, Maven has been able to package it for us to a file format that the server will understand. So we'll go ahead and do the deployment. We have actually started the deployment phase. We have to actually make this in a deployable format, which is application.war. And now I have to actually manually click. You can see I'm moving my mouse to actually go and find the file and do the deployment. So it says target. So that's the file. There are two ways of doing this deployment. I can actually copy the file and go and put it in the server because it's a file. So to be deployed. Or I can go over a GUI and do the deployment. So for now, we'll use a GUI when we are deploying it on an actual application server because those application servers, they actually prefer, it's better to enter them with a graphical user interface than to actually go into the file directory, because it's an app server, or it could be a dev server, it could be a live server. And you navigating with commands to do a deployment sometimes may not be the best because if you are not careful and you do something, it's going to put your server at a risk and also it could cause chaos. So just give you a nice graphical user interface and that will help you to do the deployment. So let's do the manual deployment. We are still doing traditional deployment. We haven't yet got into the automated phase with Jenkins. So found let's go show in our system explorer because it's a file, it's a folder, and then we go pick X application.war and we'll go and deploy it. All right, so come and put it here. Inside program files, sorry, Apache, Tomcat 9, web apps. And we'll deploy it here. Let's deploy this. Let's remove this. I have some instances there already. Let's deploy it here again. All right, so we've done our deployment. Now, if we access this over if we access this over the Postman, we should be able to deploy application. Should be able to see something. So we'll go to localhost 8088, go to application API, and we'll do ping. Don't worry about what you're seeing there, it's fine. So that's okay. Right, so that's because it's my system. I use it to do so many things. So we've been able to do our deployment, which is successful. So now we're okay. We have done our deployment. Now let's look at this. Let's enhance or improve what we've done. Let's go ahead. So let's just let everybody know that it's Jonas that did it. So we'll say we'll call Jonas API. So let's do this. You call Jonas API. And that's what we get done now. So this is a Jonas API now. So you call Jonas API, when you call Jonas API, you get a response, right? So let's just do this. So now say Jonas. So Jonas and then the ping response. Right, so this is a new enhancement we've just done. So we want to actually go ahead and deploy this. So this time around, we'll do it on the app server. So look at this again. We have to now go again and do what? Maven clean package or Maven clean, because we've done some improvement and do Maven package. So it's trying to deploy. So as it's going, let's also start our app server. Our app server has to be up because that's where we're going to do our deployment. So we have our file that is ready. You've seen how we're able to deploy it locally. It worked. And let's go to the app server and do the deployment. And once that one is through, we realize that we are going through a lot to get a solution deployed, and which is not the best. So we'll go, seems to starting. Let's give it a while then to be ready. So the DevOps comes in when we have to now install a pipeline. The reason I'm saying install a pipeline is that probably you will not be the one that will write the Jenkins file. It will be done by a DevOps engineer. So the DevOps engineer will do the file, and then you go ahead and you put it in your project. Then once you do that, the pipeline is up. You're able to do the deployment automatically. So we'll look at that in another section. For now, let's look at how it is being done traditionally. So I really appreciate the DevOps seamless operation or seamless flow that it gives. So let's check our server is still spinning. Our server is still spinning. So it will be up very soon. So as Jonas is trying to do this manual deployment, always let's not forget that sorry, let's not forget that the customer or end user is waiting for the solution. So we are trying to provide a times two of a ripple effect. So this process we are going through of we now finish down writing our code, we have to now manually go and do the deployment of that traditional approach. It's not going to favor business goals or productivity. And it's not efficient. This process is not efficient. In other words, the process is not efficient. This gradually takes us into what is happening now in regards to digital transformation, the digital transformation agenda, because they are trying to improve efficiency and productivity. Efficiency and productivity, people being more productive, and systems being more efficient. Productivity, productivity. I don't know if I spelled it right. Productivity, yeah. So that's the thing about this digital transformation agenda or the fourth revolution that we're all inside. All right, so since our server is up now, so let's go ahead and app user 2024, and let's start our server. Let's start our server. Let's check if it's a app sudo systemctl. Let's just Tomcat app user. The password is dead, so let's activate it. It's not showing green, so let's start it again. Restart the server. Oh, let's start with start process. Says job fulfilled because the controller didn't wrong. Right, let's do sudo system ctl start tomcat. That started. Let's check the status again. All right, so it's up. So now we are going to deploy this over the graphical user interface or over the web. So go to our browser, and access the portal or the app that helps us to do that. So go to let's first of all before we do that, we have to find out the IP address of this app server. So we can actually do ahead and do our deployment. So do IPA and the IP address is 192.168.0.190. So let's do this. Let's have a new incognito window. So go to 192.168.0.190. Then 8080 because that's the port that I'm using. So it's up now. All right, so we'll go to manager. So we're in a different view. So we'll go to manager app and we'll give it a password. So the password for this is app user. I think it's app server. Yeah. And we'll go ahead and we'll do our deployment over here. We'll go ahead and do our deployment. So I'll choose a file. So before we continue, let's know that we're actually deploying it over the web, or we're using a web app to do that. We are not accessing it like the way we did a drag and drop. I'm actually in a different IP address, in a different server. That's I've had connection to that enough. I'm going to do that on port 8080. And that's because the servers have been put in a certain bridge network. Right. So choose file, application server, and deploy. Please, I only share my experiences, okay? I only share my experiences. So as and when um, they are met or as and when I feel like it will be released. Right, but at least every month something that should come out. So application, so it has been deployed, it starts, it's true. So all right, so that's good because I'm not seeing 400. Yeah, it's showing white. It's okay. That's Spring Boot. So now let's just go to the endpoint. Jonas made an enhancement. So let's get a new API that Jonas has written. So he says go to Jonas and it's pink. So you have to go to Jonas. So let's go to Jonas. So before we go to Jonas, what's the actual context for that or the directory for that service? Is that API. So our folder API. Then it says go to Jonas. I said go to Jonas and go to ping. Voila. So it's working. So you can say it's working over the web. So let's go ahead and do it over Postman too as well. So we can see our response has changed. All right, so now let's go ahead. Our client has looked at it, customers have experienced it. We don't like this response. Please do something about it for us. So Jonas comes again, he comes back again, and he has to now go back and go through the same process that he has to do to do the deployment. And that's because of that's because of the traditional approach. It's not automated. So there's a lot of effort. Because it's only a one line of code, we're not really seeing the effort. But if here was like 200 lines of code and you have to actually start everything again or enhance it, then you really appreciate the DevOps. But even with this, you coming back again, I don't even feel like doing it. But we are going to do it. So just improve the response here. So with the existing code base that is here, Jonas, it could even be that now Jonas will just do this and then maybe Stacy to us an intern will have Stacy will have to improve their response. So one code base, but everybody's being involved gradually. So Stacy too has to come and do her own teaching. So this is where the CI part really comes inside, continuous integration. So Stacy will definitely will have to get the source code for her personal use and work on that. So how are we going to do that? So we have to have version control. I get repository so that Stacy, we don't want to send this to Stacy via email or zip. No, it has to be a central repository whereby um, Stacy will go to the repo and get a copy or get a version, then work on it. When she's done, she also what commits it, or she sends it to the cloud, or she sends it to the repo, and then it also does the deployment so that the whole operational overhead or that cost or the turnaround time is taking everybody to just improve or increase their improve their solutions or we have their releases will be cut short because now let's take that this Stacy. I've picked the work now to I'm Stacy. I want to improve this. So what I'll do is that I'll start my work. So everybody is using response entity. So I'm also going to align with what the source code is already doing. So I've aligned it here. I start. So now I have to fix this. So we could still we'll just copy this. So Stacy is actually working on the response now. So this is now Stacy's work. Jonas started, but now Stacy has taken over. And she has to proceed as well. So what we'll do is that we will now um, create a response for this. So Stacy starts with response. She said, I'll return a list of string, but I'll still give credit to Jonas because I like Jonas' works. And I'll say root response. Don't even go with this. So we'll say new root response. So we're just using a diamond operator to get our way around it in terms of generics. So Stacy says this is what I'll do. So now let's improve the response. So she said root response that set. I'll give the status code. Jonas didn't give a status code. Ah, you can see Jonas is secular. Which I'm going to add my own and message. I'll put a message for my API response, a list of responses, root response dot set. I've even given it a status. Jonas didn't give a status and he's bragging that he has done the implementation. Everybody's keeping praises upon him. Wait till they see my work. Timestamp. All right, so to string. So Stacy is here to brag. All right. Local S, what does it take? Says change method. So I think it says a local datetime. So let's just make a local datetime. Okay, so it's left with our response and message. So when they hit this endpoint now, Jonas and Ping, the response that we want to see is we want to see a list of random or some Ping responses. Nothing serious, but that's what we just want to display. So we'll say array dot as list. And here is expecting an array. So we'll just give it some UIDs. So those UIDs are ping responses. As some ping responses. So we start with one, we start with another one, two strings. So let's give like 4 or 5. So when the customer receives this, he knows what to do with these responses. But because we are the developers, we are the one writing it for them. So they will know what to do with their ping responses. Probably use that to filter or go ahead and process their payment or whatever requirement you need. So this is so when you see the success, then there has to be a message. So Jonas just gave us a message because probably Jonas couldn't do this and he's done and he's bragging. So now we are enhancing or we are improving the API. That's the Jonas API. So we want to give it a message now. So this time around, Stacy says fine. I'll still go with Jonas as a message because from the Jonas API, and I'll see that once I give the tilde, I'll just go ahead and see your is that um let's do something first. Just say routing payment from Jonas API or let's say ping routing payment information from Jonas API was successful. Successful. So that's Stacy's implementation. That's so cool. So Stacy has improved the response for us. So we give praise. We give the shot to Stacy that hey Stacy, well done. In a row we probably have to give it some parameters to pass. But we are not going to do all that. So we'll just go ahead and now let's form the return for this. So say return, it has to return a response entity. So we say a new response entity, and then we give it the root response and the HTTP status. Okay. So Stacy has done a wonderful work. So root response, let's make this to a string, a list of strings, sorry. So Stacy is done. So Stacy has really done a lot. So she has actually taken the project to be a owner. And she has been saying ping routing payment communication with Genesis was successful. And these are the list of responses. So now let's go ahead. Stacy is done. And she has to also go and do a deployment. So she goes ahead and build a file, even package. So let's go ahead and deploy it. So probably the next intern that will come now will be Bobby. So Bobby too will come in and Bobby has to now actually get a key. Bobby has to now get a key and maybe fetch some records. Fetch some records. So Bobby to also have access to this and also go ahead and do the work. So that's now so how Bobby get it? They have to have the version control, they have to have the repo over there so that Bobby can easily go and get a copy. We don't want to be. Stacy is done. As Stacy is working on it, then she now has to. Let me export it to Bobby, and you go export as a zip file, and you send it to Bobby. So that's the operational overheads of that turnaround time is too high. It's very inefficient. But if you put it on a repo somewhere or there's a site somewhere, It will go and get his copy and he'll start working. When he's done, he'll just push it or commit it and then we are gone. So Bobby too wants to start his work. So Bobby too start his work in a different location. He probably mustn't be on the same campus. He could be at a different location. So that's the importance of the version control. And that gradually takes us into the CI part of it. Now, Stacy is done. She wants to deliver her solution. So she has to release it so that the client can see what has been done. So we've done the build. Let's go to our portal. Let's do the deployment again. Realize that if this was in a live environment, that's a live environment, realize it's very cool because you'll be seeing different releases. As a customer end user, you'll be seeing something very tangible. That's when this is being done. And it could take like a day, you could have like 200 releases or 100 releases or you name it. But at the end of the day, if we have our deadline, by the time our deadline has reached, our solution should have been ready. So it builds confidence as a client. It builds a lot of confidence in the company or the team you are working with because you're actually seeing something. It's not like you went 2 weeks, you didn't see anything at all, and then you just went back. No, as and when you're releasing, you actually get to see or visualize what is actually happening, or you get to feel it. Yeah. So it has been deployed as usual to create our endpoint. So now let's go to the same endpoint, Postman. Now let's make the get call, the get call. So this is fantastic. So now we all get to see Stacy's work. So she gave credit to Jonas, no doubt. When it says finger out implement confirmation from Jonas API was successful. And that's it. So Stacy too has done her implementation. So this is just the manual deployment of this. And just really looking at it, we realize that we went through a lot just to get this done. And if the source code is the source code is a lot, or the block of code we have to write is a lot, that's going to be work for us. And everybody's hands getting involved is going to be a lot of work for us. So this is the traditional way of doing it. Now we want to look at the automated or the DevOps way that everybody is gradually aligning to. And that's with the Jenkins, not just Jenkins, but installing a Jenkins pipeline. That's getting the Jenkins pipeline up. Not only Jenkins, but if you choose any CI/CD server that you want to work with, you should at least know how to get this up so that you don't have issues with regards to what we just looked at. So we'll look at that in another Codefilm. So this is just a traditional approach, and we've seen how it goes, and we at least we appreciate it. So next time around, we wouldn't want to go through all this. We want everything to be automated so that when you come to the app server, it does a deployment for you at the app server or any server that I choose. So if I have to deploy to the Nigeria server, I have to it just goes to the Nigeria server. It could even be that one solution. I have to deploy it on several servers, and that one too has to be able to be done uh, with the build automation server that you implement. That's the CI/CD software you go with. All right, so guys, that's it for this core film or this section, and I hope it was practical enough. So we'll look at this in another series. So this is all about the DevOps culture, automation and installation. Still focusing on enterprise basis and the developer. All right, guys. So I'll call it a wrap here, and then we'll look at the automation bit. Thank you.